So I've noticed some patterns within the Dungeons of Doom that tell their own story within the story. And for me, some of these details kind of crank up the horror a bit, and I'm curious to know what you guys think. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so getting back into Dungeons of Doom, this continues the gold rush in Latveria, where now that Doom's gone, everyone's fighting to take what he left behind. So you've got General Ross and his US troops, you have Hydra swooping in to take what they can, you've got Latverian freedom fighters trying to defend Doom's estate, but like we saw early on, this led to General Ross going a little too hard, which sent himself and members of these different groups tumbling below into the Dungeons of Doom, which is where the story continues as we follow these different groups, starting with General Ross, the Red Hulk, to where now as he finds one of his men who has been separated, literally. But even now, he still has radio contact with the troops who survived the fall, so he's looking for them because they've got a job to do. Because as far as the general is concerned, Latveria belongs to the US. And if you'd like to get a bit more context on the how, when, and why General Ross claimed Latveria, I have a link to that full story in the description. And if you also want to know a bit more about the history between the US and Latveria in the new Captain America story, which shows us how the US helped Doom get into power in the first place, I have that link in the description as well. But in the here and now, as General Ross is continuing to look for his troops within the Dungeons of Doom, it's a straight up horror story down here. Because like we saw, his troops ended up finding this mysterious mutant, who we only know as the Whisper Man. And really, just looking at this guy and the whole setup going on around him, it's some wild stuff. Because this dude is strung up, cut open, with his limbs hanging on the other side of the room, his mouth is sewn shut, and there's all sorts of jars all over the place with organs in them, which seems like it's all a combination of torture and experimentation. And now when these troops first arrived, they heard a message saying, "This is the voice of Professor Charles Xavier. If you are hearing this message, you have tripped the proximity alarm. Turn back. This room was never meant to be opened. It holds an organism beyond your comprehension, a mutant who should never have been born." And now when the troops get here, they do just about anything but turn back. Because Major Simmons, he reaches out to Ross to find out what they should do. But the Sergeant Major, he's over here like, how about we do nothing? Because on one hand, the obvious part is they're fighting so that the US can take possession of everything that's down here, every powerful artifact. But the part where all these guys fell right into the dungeon, that wasn't part of the plan. So the safe decision would be to keep it moving. And that's what the Sergeant Major tells them. We need to go and don't even think about touching anything, because we're looking for a way out and this ain't that. But when another one of the soldiers is like, "Hey, I heard something. Did anyone else hear?" Whispering. And he goes on to shine a light on the Whisper Man's chest, where inside, as we saw, there's this device with a ton of gears that's been placed into him that suddenly clicks. And it's like a jump scare, because the Whisper Man then just starts wiggling around. And the soldiers are like, yo, how is this guy even alive? And even with seeing all this, Major Simmons still goes to cut him down. And the other troops are basically like, bro, I know you playing. And they're like, no, sir, wait. Doom put him in here. Think this through. And the Major doesn't listen like you'd imagine in a horror movie, because he just cuts the dude's mouth free. And that's where the Whisper Man starts talking crazy, in a strange voice saying these words that they can't understand, just before these blue lights and vapors come splashing out of his neck and his chest, in a way that strongly resembles the mutant chamber. But in this case with the Whisper Man, we still don't know what exactly his powers are. We're just thrown directly into this horrific demonstration, because when he explodes, letting out this glowing blue vapor, followed by this strange sound, and the Sergeant Major breathes it in. But when Simmons comes over to check on the Sergeant Major, for a brief moment he's out of it, and he ends up seeing these memories from the Whisper Man, where he had taken control of an insane number of people through what looked to be a similar process. And we also get a moment here where we're given a somewhat better look at him, where he has this pentagram on his chest, which is something we also saw in the room when the troops first got there. And I imagine this pentagram is leading towards some sort of mysticism or balance kind of meaning in association with his powers, because in addition to this, we often see his head, his 2 arms, 2 legs, reaching out in a similar star-like position. So that could be something he needs to do to exert his power at full efficiency. Who knows? But there's definitely something significant about the pentagram and the number 5 with this guy, as well as the whole clock thing. But we'll come back to that, because we'll see his pose change when the numbers change as well. And I say that to say, if all this lines up, I can understand why Doom would remove this guy's arms and legs. But also in this memory, he's going up against Dr. Voodoo, Emma Frost, and Charles Xavier, which I imagine took place some time ago based on Emma's outfit. But nonetheless, it is a wild thing to see. But eventually when the Sergeant Major responds and he gets up like, I'm good. Now Major Simmons is like, nobody touch anything. We're getting the hell out of here. And it's like, bro, I know you ain't talking sticky fingers. Because as they head out, General Ross responds on the comms. asking for their location. So Major Simmons responds, telling him that they're down to 5 and they're heading west down the corridor. So Ross is like, I'm down here too. Found Booth dead, no other contact yet. And that's where Simmons tells Ross about the device planted in the Whisper Man's chest. And what Ross tells him here, this falls in line with the whole change of plans given their current situation thing. Because again, the smart move would be to not touch anything and get out of there. But instead, General Ross is like, tell me you kept it, Simmons. We're not the only ones down here. And of course, Simmons has it on him. He did take it, but it's one of those things where you gotta ask yourself, like, was it worth the risk? Because now the Sergeant Major, who we saw inhale a ton of that blue mysterious chest smoke, he's over here sweating and coughing, talking about how his throat hurts. And when he tries to tell them to get him some water, it comes out of that strange and eerie sound that the Whisper Man was making. And that's why the other troops are looking at him like, hey, what's wrong with him? Like, why you sound like that? Like, don't do that. And when they end up eventually coming across the Hydra agents we saw before, who came crashing down with some of the local freedom fighters, the US troops see a light from above and they're like, okay, this could be a way out. But then with little to no warning, one of the freedom fighters who's still alive just starts letting off shots, lighting up one of the troops. And Ross hears it. And what's crazy here is that the Sergeant Major, the one who he saw inhale the Whisper Man smoke and see the vision and all that, he goes off and he absolutely wrecks this guy while speaking in the Whisper Man's strange language. But when this happens, it almost seems as if it's the Whisper Man doing this because he needed 5 of these soldiers and this freedom fighter took them down to 4. Which again is just a theory that I have based on the reoccurring theme of 5 that we keep seeing around the Whisper Man, because it's almost like once this happens, the Sergeant Major just goes off, as if the other members of his team were no longer of any good, because he then starts to attack them, almost as if the Whisper Man needed 5 of them to do something in a certain amount of time. Like, I'm just thinking out loud, because to me that would begin to explain why they found so many clocks around him. But again, these soldiers, they're not paying attention to any of this, they're just doing a job, and they are way too freaked out, and reasonably so. But they are way too freaked out to try to make any sense of this in real time. Cause put yourself in their shoes. Imagine falling into Doom's dungeon just to find out Marvel's been hiding a Dr. Manhattan this whole time. Cause there's even similarities in that case, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Not yet at least. But the Sergeant Major, he ends up splashing, and all the while, General Ross is trying to radio them and figure out what's going on. Cause he heard the gunfire. So he's trying to reach out to Simmons, but he's not responding. And the next thing we see is that memory with the Whisper Man, who's now holding a similar yet different position. But yeah, I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts on the Whisper Man, because every time we see more, he just starts to feel creepier and creepier. And now after this, we head back over to Umbra, the Wakandan, who we saw make his way here to Doom's dungeon in issue 1. And again, in a lot of ways, this guy's like the inverse to the Black Panther. In much of what I talked about when we covered the last issue, it ends up happening in this one in relation to why he's come here. But in addition to him serving the bat deity, Nagiku, the Wakandan tech he uses, it also mimics that which you'd see from a bat. Because when he gets here and he's looking down into this pitch black labyrinth, Umbra uses echolocation to navigate his way through, which is a huge advantage in his case, and really his suit in general, because everyone else we've seen who's just fallen into the dungeons of doom, many of them are still trying to get their bearings, versus Umbra who's able to head directly towards what he came for. And we're told as he makes his way, there are others here. And if they are in his way, they are his enemy. When people think of Wakandan power, they think of vibranium mines beneath the Great Mound, but there are other hidden treasures. Doom has stolen much from them. But Umbra is here for one item in particular. And now as Umbra enters Doom's Stuff I Stole from Wakanda section, he starts to hear the voice of Nagiku saying, the heart-shaped herb allows you to travel to the ancestral plane, but the skull-shaped herb brings the ancestral plane to our world. The dead can live. Your wife can live again. And now 2 things, because what's interesting about this, first is the mention of his motivation. He lost his wife and he wants her back. Secondly, there's the whole aspect of why Nagiku wants Umbra to do this and what other motivations might be hidden there. Because I imagine much like how T'Challa's an avatar for Bast, Nagiku's looking to use Umbra in a similar way, though on the flip side with very nefarious intentions. And now from here, when we go to chapter 3 and continue the story of Spixemi, or Betrayal, with the surviving Hydra agents who recently found this hammer that can only be lifted by someone who is not trustworthy, which is why this guy Valence is able to pick it up after killing one of his own men. But now with him and the other remaining Hydra agents trapped in this room, one of these guys is like, can you use it to break through that door? And the other's like, man, if you do, it's gonna be loud and the Americans are gonna find us. But Valence doesn't care and he just smashes the door. Because to him, it's like, it's better that the Americans hear us and they come to attack than us just sitting here in this room in the dark and dying together. And when the others see this insane display of power exerted, they're like, okay, this is more than just a hammer. And that's when he tells them Spixemi. Spixemi is its name. That's the name that it spoke to him. And immediately this kicks up a huge argument because the guy who spotted the hammer, Manx, he starts going off like, hey, I saw it first. And he goes from that to just pulling rank, like, hey, I saw it first, give it to me. But dude's just like, no, it's mine. You were too weak, remember? And the other guy's in the corner like, how about we just leave it? Because there's always that one smart and logical person in a horror situation that no one listens to. So Valence just continues to go on his way with the hammer, only to take a few steps out of the room and get lit up by gunfire from above, mortally wounding him. So that's where Manx sees the hammer and his opportunity. So he's like, oh yeah, it's my turn now. But he's not able to lift the hammer. Because again, Valence was only able to do it when he killed the other Hydra agent. So now when he starts making fun of Manx, since he still can't lift the hammer, this ends up turning into an opportunity for Manx to become worthy. And it's kind of wild, because as Manx is getting roasted, he's basically over here like, oh, I'm weak, huh? Well, you want to know what I can lift? As he takes this huge boulder and he drops it on old boy's head. And it's not even like Manx knew what he needed to do in order to become worthy. He just killed Valence because he was talking junk with his dying breath. But as soon as he does, Manx is able to hear the hammer himself, because now it's speaking to him. So he goes to lift it. And after this, when we go to chapter 4 and continue with the Latvian freedom fighters, who are led by Alexander, who just led his team into a tomb that's like a doorway after following what he believes to be the ghost of his dead sister, who was killed by Doom along with the rest of his family after Alexander joined the freedom fighters. And this is one of those situations where it's like he's not even 100% if it's her, though he really wants to believe that it is. And he's literally betting his life and the life of his team members on the possibility that they're being led to safety. But given the circumstance that they were in, they kind of didn't have a choice, because it was like either blindly trust this ghost or get killed by whatever this thing was. So again, I don't blame him for taking his chances with the ghost. And now this leads him and the others through this deep waterway passage. And he goes on to say here, for more than a year, the Latvians were imprisoned in a world beyond this one, a subatomic rift. So the Dungeons of Doom feel familiar, a hidden place that has its own dark rules and reality, a place where ghosts are real, where death is familiar. Which reminds me of what we saw in the 2020 Thor series when Doom kidnapped Hela and used the people of Latveria to create his own afterlife as a way to prepare for the end of all things, which was a part of the whole story with the Black Infinity Stone. But this was just one of the many crazy examples that comes to mind out of the recent events where we've seen Doom use his own people in order to get something done. And this wasn't the last time. So with Alexander saying this experience is familiar, I can just imagine the people of Latveria have had multiple experiences that have seemed similar to this. But this continues saying, darkness beats at the edge of his vision like crow wings. It will claim him soon. Any second now. And then, just as he's about to give up, he's coughed into the air again. The chamber looks somewhere between a tomb and a temple, devoted to Konshu. And now as soon as they get here, Alexander tells the others the dungeon's under attack and that they need to hurry. And that's where Sophia is like, what about Boris? So he just tells him to go ahead and he'll look after Boris. But as soon as they leave, the ghost of Alexander's sister, Catalina, she comes back and she tells him to kill Boris, because whatever came out of that first coffin that they were running from, it's inside Boris now. So Alexander listens to her and he does this. He kills Boris, but you can tell he didn't want to, because even when she's saying, kill him, brother, he'd do the same for you. Alexander's just like, this feels wrong, but he still does it. And when she tells him to get rid of him, he puts his body in the water, because I imagine for him there's also the whole idea of him not wanting Boris to just rise up and kill everybody else here. But back over with Sophia and Fedir, the two of them end up stumbling across the Eye of Konshu, which as it would seem is just one of those things that Doom had in his possession to either hide away from everyone else or use at his own discretion. And this is one of the things I like about Dungeons of Doom the most. And really I wish this series would go longer than just 3 issues, because you could have any artifact down here and just make something up. And not just artifacts, but characters like the Whisper Man. But you can literally have anything down here and hide it away, and whatever story you put behind it will make sense. Because as we know, Doom just be taking stuff. But nonetheless, while they're here, Fedir is basically like, we probably shouldn't touch it, because their intention was to protect the dungeons, not raid them. But Sophia's like, look, we are surrounded by all sorts of hostiles. We need some kind of way to defend ourselves. And that's where she picks up what we find out is the Eye of Konshu. And we're told here the Eye of Konshu does not give you wealth, strength, or eternal life. It gives you sight, the ability to see the secrets chambered inside of all of us. Lies, misdeeds, cruelties, thefts, affairs, shames, and embarrassments. Whatever we lock away in the dungeons of our mind. And this goes on to show us how, for Fedir, at one point he'd struggled with a drug addiction, him and Boris were intimately involved, and we even see Fedir killing a group of Hydra agents. But Sophia, she's able to see all of this and comfort him to tell him like, hey, it's okay. And now something to keep in mind that we'll likely see more of at a later time is that the Eye of Konshu is more valuable than any weapon that any other country could find down here, because to have the ability to see into anyone's mind and see everything that they've done, that's insanely valuable. But while they're here, Alexander comes back and he's like, you found it, the Eye of Konshu. So Federer's like, where's Boris? And Alexander's like, oh, he's resting in peace. But no, then Sophia's like, what did you do, Alexander? And she's able to see what he did. She sees him kill Boris, though it's without context. All she knows is that he killed him. So she calls him out on it. And of course, Federer's upset about it. But Alexander's like, hold on, that's not fair. Because again, it's not like he wanted to do it. It's more like he was doing what he believed to be the safe call. But then that's when the ghost of his sister, Katerina, tells Alexander that he needs to kill the both of them, or they're going to kill him. So both him and Federer draw their guns. But Sophia stops this right away and she tells them, this place is turning us against each other. And while they're trying to sort this out, that's when Boris comes back as a bloater. Nah, but the infection that had taken him over, it hasn't stopped. So in a way, I imagine this proves that Alexander didn't just kill him just to kill him, but instead he should be like, yo, this is what I was trying to stop. But yeah, with how this story is unfolding, for whatever reason, I would like to see Alexander replace his eye with the eye of Konshu at some point. And who knows, disappear and come back as a fake Doom or something. But yeah, that'll do it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and don't forget to let me know your thoughts on some of these crazy stories that are unfolding. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.